Hi, you spares. It's Dr. D here. Let's read our second article together from the packet that the district sent out. Now, a word about these packets. They are available online. You need to go by your grade level. Now, if you're in my world history class and you're not a ninth grader, you should do the ninth grade world history packet. But if you are confused and you do 10th, 11th, or 12th grade social studies, we can talk about that one-on-one. It's not the end of the world. So I want to show you how I have posted the articles on Google Classroom so you can easily turn them in. Now, if you're with someone who does not have Google Classroom, but maybe you're working together, maybe you're reading the articles together, they can write their answers on paper and they could take a picture of it and just send it to me. So I have a Google Voice number and you can always text to that. And that number is 816-360-9829. I don't know if you can see it very well. Yay. Okay. So let's get into Google Classroom. Now there's a lot of information in here, right? So I want to point out two different things. We have the stream that shows you everything. Announcements, classwork, videos, etc. And then we have the classwork tab. So the classwork, these are all of the assignments that you will need to turn in. I want to show you in the stream though. The stream is important to look at because it has a lot of announcements and links to communicate with you guys about what's going on. So right here I have my YouTube channel. Yes, I have a YouTube channel. Pretty cool. And that's where I'm also going to post this video and other videos for educational purposes. Here's an assignment called Dear Diary. That's another video that I'll post. These flyers are about food distribution. My Miss You Guys video. Post spring break quiz. That was just a Google form. I wanted you guys to fill out and let me know how you're doing. And now let's get down here to the reading. Reading number 1 from the packet, that was another video. Reading number 2 from the packet is what we'll do today. So I know I'm in my second hour world history, but all of my world history classes are the same. So just make sure you do your work in your hour so I get it in the grade book in your hour. All right, let's click on reading number 2. And in the instructions, you can see the Google Doc where I've asked you to, here's the title of the article. You write your quiz answers here. List 3 of the most interesting things you learned and why each is interesting to you. And then the district assignment was to write a paragraph, 3 to 5 sentences, citing specific parts of the text that explain the significance of the Nile River to Egyptian civilization. So that's what we're doing with this article. Let's go back to the article. And the article is from Newsela, or News ELA. I'm going to read at the level, the reading level that the district put into the packet. So you can follow along with me on paper, or you can follow along with me on your screen or this screen. But if you want to change the reading level, you just click on this and it will change the level of the article for you. And there's no shame in doing that, friends. Please do that. You'll only become a stronger reader if you read at your reading level and grow. But you've got to start somewhere, okay? All right, speaking of starting, let's go. Our article is called Scientists Find Evidence That Environmental Forces Led to Egypt's Collapse. Here is an image, and it has a caption. Awesome. When I see an image with a caption, I always read the caption. It says, the head of a statue depicting Cleopatra, 69 to 30 BC, the last pharaoh of ancient Egypt, is displayed as part of an exhibition titled The Myth of Cleopatra on April 9th, 2014 at the Pinacoteca in Paris, France. I had to look up how to say that word, and I'm not even sure if I'm saying it correctly, but Pinacoteca Apparently it's a gallery in a museum in Paris. Who knew? Now you do. So let's continue with the reading. The fall of Cleopatra's Egypt to Augustus, the first Roman emperor, is usually told as a dramatic power struggle between elite rulers on the world stage. Cleopatra famously forged a doomed political alliance with the Roman general Mark Antony, who was also her lover. But when their combined forces were defeated at the Battle of Actium, the pair killed themselves and Egypt became a province of the newly formed Roman Empire. However, a new analysis suggests the seeds of Cleopatra's defeat may have been sown a decade earlier by environmental forces beyond her control. It links a massive volcanic eruption, which probably happened somewhere in the tropics, although researchers are not sure, with severe disruption to the seasonal flooding of the Nile River. The consequences for Egyptian agriculture were devastating. Nile River's effect on Egyptian society. The study was based on evidence from ice core records of Egyptian eruption dates, the Islamic nilometer, an ancient history of Nile water levels, and ancient Egyptian documentation of social unrest. It suggests that a giant volcanic eruption in 44 BC may have suppressed rainfall, leading to famines, plague, and social unrest. Ultimately, the authors argue, this may have weakened Cleopatra's hold on power a decade before her defeat in 30 BC, changing the course of world history. Francis Ludlow, a climate historian at Trinity College Dublin, was co-author of the study. He said, "We've shown evidence that the failure of these floodwaters are connected to things like revolts and sales of land, and these are triggering social stresses." Previously, historians have focused on the downward spiral of the 300-year Ptolemaic dynasty, of which Cleopatra was the final ruler in the family line. The fall was considered to be driven by infighting, decline, and incest, with siblings routinely married for political reasons. They are portrayed as these horrible, drunken, womanizing despots, literally drunken idiots who can't run the country, said Joe Manning, a historian at Yale University and also a co-author. The Romans took a really grim view of these guys, probably unfairly. "We have a more complex story," Manning said, adding, "We're saying that the environment and Nile behavior was important for understanding the economy." Egyptian agriculture was critically dependent on the annual flood of the Nile due to the almost total absence of rainfall inland. "If the flood doesn't rise high enough, you just don't grow anything," said Ludlow. "It can be catastrophic!" Volcanic eruption linked to famine. Ptolemaic rulers developed extensive grain stores to buffer against annual variations of flooding. However, extreme water shortage remained a possibility. The new paper shows that the biggest volcanic eruption in 2,500 years, marked by a spike in the sulfate content in ice core records, occurred somewhere in the world in 44 BC. Separately, the team found a strong correlation between the more recent volcanic eruptions and severe dips in Nile flooding. This is shown in data from the Islamic nilometer, the longest known annually recorded hydrological record, which started in AD 622. Hydrology is the science of the movement of water on Earth's surface. Giant eruptions release vast quantities of material into the stratosphere, which form aerosols that block sunlight. This reduces the amount of water evaporating from oceans and lowers rainfall. The team also found references to famines, revolts, and the desertification of land in numerous records, linked to other eruptions seen in ice core data in 209 BC and 238 BC. and Cleopatra's doctor wrote about the plague following the 44 BC eruption, which could have been triggered by mass migration to cities during a famine. Other historical events being re-examined. The paper comes as a growing number of academics are turning to climate records, genetic and disease data to reinterpret some of the most significant events in history. However, the conclusions are not universally accepted. There's a distrust among historians of attributing big historical events to an environmental influence, said Ludlow. People don't like to feel that what's happening in society is beyond their control. They have preferred to explain history through what the great men of history were doing. We're not saying throw out the history books. We're just saying here's a new angle, he added. The study's findings are published in the journal Nature Communications. Okay, historians, there's a lot there. So your Google Doc asks you to take the quiz, list your answers there, then list 3 of the most interesting things you learned and explain why each is interesting to you. So for example, I'm going to say one of the interesting things I learned was that, oh, here we go. When there's a volcanic eruption, it releases a lot of material into the stratosphere and aerosol stuff blocks the sunlight. This reduces the amount of water evaporating from oceans and lowers rainfall. So we got a little science here. Miss Hughes would be happy and proud of us, right? Mr. Saya too. So that's one thing I learned. All right, and the writing a paragraph citing specific parts of the text that explain the significance of the Nile River to Egyptian civilization. There are lots of facts in there for that. I would also encourage you to really think about what this article does for historians. We're historians, and I really agree with this guy, Ludlow. People don't like to feel that what's happening in society is beyond their control. They have preferred to explain history through what the great men of history were doing. So when things happen and we can't explain them, it freaks us out, right? Kind of like our life right now. And traditionally, a lot of history books were just written through great men. So U.S. history through the U.S. presidents, European history through kings and queens. But this is saying, hey, we're presenting a new angle. That's what I love about that. We are presenting a new angle. And that's what we historians can do. We can look at evidence. I can get with Miss Hughes and Mr. Saya and look at science evidence. And then I can use science evidence to help support my historical arguments. Okay, a lot of food there to ponder on. Thanks for reading along with me. I'll see you later.